Retro Rebel Gamecast is brought to you by TempleofGeek.com, your one-stop shop for all things geek. You can find all our episodes and fulfill your sci-fi, fantasy, and geek culture-related needs at TempleofGeek.com. Welcome to the Retro Rebel Gamecast, where we discuss gaming and related topics. Retro Rebel is released Fridays, and you can find this episode and much more by heading to TempleofGeek.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. You can even find us on Facebook and Instagram at Retro Rebel Podcast for exclusive content and to see what else we're up to. My name is Amanda, and today I'm joined by special repeat guest host, Tom. Thanks for coming back, Tom.
Do you know when you say repeat guest host?
That's right.
Can I just say?
Yes, sir.
Do you mean hostage?
I mean, you're not in my basement, but you are doing this probably against your will.
Let's just keep that in mind. That GoFundMe page that we tried starting from our fridge didn't take off very well.
No, it didn't. Unfortunately, not.
I'm actually quite disappointed with your Retro Rebel fan base.
I'm so sorry.
I'm wasting away.
Well, listen, maybe they will help you get out of your hostage situation by commenting and liking.
I found this on the floor, luckily. So
Stop, you did.
If it wasn't for finding stuff on the floor, whatever my dog brings in, I'd probably be dead by now. Thank you very much.
You joker. Well, thank you for being here, regardless of the circumstances. Today, we're going to be talking about the best FPSs of all time, and that is quite a big statement to make. Yeah. In fact, the list that we're basing it on is actually a Den of Geek list that is titled The Best FPS Games Ever Made. And I think that is quite a title. I mean, I realize they're similar. It is a bold statement. But before we get into the main topic, let's just have a quick chat about what we're playing. Tom, you mentioned that you've been playing Elden Ring, and you talked about a boss fight you've been playing recently. How's that going?
Listen, talked about more like I was whinging about. Yeah, I've kind of. So if anyone knows anything about Elden Ring, it's you need patience. You need patience, and unfortunately, you do need something called skill. I haven't got abundance of either, so I'm struggling at the moment. I've got to this boss where they're called, if I get the name right, it's called the God Skin Duo. Now, it sounds odd, but one of them's quite a large, looks like a friendly fella, but he's not. And he's got like a sword like those Perrier people.
Right, a rapier?
Yeah, rapier. He's got one of those, right? And he's like da 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 da, like fucking doing all sorts, right? And then his counterpart is like a snake. No, he's like a plasticine skinny geezer. He's a skinny tall geezer, but he contorts his body like all over the fucking screen. And then he does he's got like a scythe kind of thing.
Right.
Listen, either which way, the reason why I've stopped playing it is because those two were stressing the hell out of me. So I stopped it. I was carrying, because you carry like your currency, like in EverQuest and like Diablo and stuff, you drop your gold and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, they have their currencies called runes, and you only get them from like either completing quests or killing some of the NPCs, but you don't get many runes. I was carrying like 40,000 runes. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is.
That does sound like a lot.
Right, but it takes a lot of time to get there, and I got killed. And then the only way I'm going to get them back is by going back into the instance and collecting my body / rune stash, and then trying not to die again fighting the bosses.
Right. Can you run out of their aggro range?
Nope. Once you're in the instance, you are locked into the instance. You can't just run out because you're in combat.
Oh my god.
So you either defeat them or don't.
Sounds like it's time for walkthroughs.
Do you know what? All the walkthroughs are done by, like, no disrespect to anyone, but like they're done by like highly skilled Korean people that have been playing it like for ages. And when you get in the end, or like me, who just used to playing Witcher and actually not rolling or diving anywhere out the, doing any sort of tucks and rolls, it kind of struggle. But still, visually a stunning game.
Right.
Very like it's cinematic. Most of it. Some of the dialogue is shit, but I just think it maybe it doesn't translate very well or something. I don't know. When whoever was doing the writing for the dialogue just didn't understand that people don't really respond very well to nonsensical sentences. So like there's
I
like
bet.
some of the dialogue is like do you remember that old the Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie they did
Yeah.
where Sindel says like, "Too bad you will die." like the
I love
dialogue's
that.
almost that bad. It's
Do
like
you know what though? I have such a soft spot for all the stupid Mortal Kombat movies. They just came out at the right time in my childhood, and I ate them up. Ate them up.
like
But now
but
I get it.
that nonsensical talk where like the antagonist would be saying something like, "Oh, sorry," the protagonist would be like, "Oh, we've got to go and save the from this person," and then the bad guy will turn up and goes, "Too bad you won't save anyone," and it's like, yeah, we know that because it's just it's just difficult to follow. That's all I'm saying.
Amazing. I love it. Well,
Good game, so I can play.
I very recently played Blood on the Clock Tower online, which is a social deduction game like Werewolf, which I play every week. But it has the benefit that nobody gets kicked out early. So even if you die in the game, you still get one vote as a ghost, and you can still talk normally and commune with the living villagers
As a
in order
ghost.
to, yeah, as a ghost, yeah, in order to try to find the demon and expel him from the village. So it's really, really similar to Werewolf. It's pretty interesting concept. I will say that it probably plays a bit better in person and with like smaller numbers of people. We had 20 people in a game. That's an awful lot of people. There was a lot of downtime. But I think in person, like it's very much a story experience. Like the person who runs the
Mm.
game is called the storyteller and tries to like work in the different roles and make it more of a narrative. And it was pretty interesting, something different. It's not a video game, of course. It is a board game experience, which I played online.
Probably the
But
easiest way to ask the question to ask is, did you enjoy it?
yeah, listen, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
Right, I
So
get it.
yeah. But that does bring us to our main topic, which is the 25 best FPS games of all time, or that have ever been sold, which I just love that title from our friendly rivals, the Den of Geek. It's a curated list, so they've actually come up with this, and so it's not user generated or based on votes or based on review scores. This is actually somebody who hopefully loves games sitting down and thinking about this. So today we're going to look at how their choices stack up against what we think. We're going to do the first 15, and then next week we'll do the top 10. So that gives us time to not rush through and really look at each one of these games and evaluate them. So, are you ready to get started?
Please disregard that yawn. I've finished work. It wasn't the fact that you just told me about this list. I'm just tired, hence why I've got the old
The old coffee.
the old
I love it.
wake up nectar.
The Wake Up Nectar. All right, brilliant. So let's kick it off with a game that I know something about, but maybe you don't. It's a game called Super Hot. And when it was advertised, there was like quite a pulsing video that was just like white and red, and it went super hot, super hot. It was very German. And basically, this is the slowest FPS you would ever play. If you stand still, nothing happens, nothing moves. It's
Wait,
actually tactical.
is this the VR one?
So they have it in VR, but they also have it I think they have it for standard, and I know they have a board game of it as well. So
What?
basically, yeah, there are enemies like in a white room, right? And you need to shoot the enemies. But you need to slow down enough to make sure that you're not being taken unawares and stuff, and like properly evaluate the direction other enemies are coming from and stuff. It's really quite a challenging looking game. Now, I have not played it, nor have I played the board game version because someone brought the board game version to our last meetup and it started a fight. So
What do you
I
mean it started a fight?
yeah, like they all got upset at each other because apparently it took them 2 hours to just learn the basic rules. It's that difficult.
Oh, I'd
Um
stay away from that then.
yeah, it's pretty challenging, but I can imagine how this is a very unusual game, and I think it deserves a place on this list because when I think of some of the most groundbreaking FPSs, even though this game looks cubic and silly, like graphically, it had a completely unique concept that I don't think that we've ever really seen before outside of VATS and Fallout, which still isn't 100% stopped time. It is a little different. So,
I just remember the VR version of this. I don't know the board game or anything like that. The VR version wasn't actually that bad. I think it was one of the early release titles, if I'm not mistaken, 2013, 15 kind of time. I
yeah,
might be
it was
wrong
around
though.
then, yeah.
Yeah, so like I think it was the when VR was just starting to like mold into where it is in the marketplace today.
Right.
You know.
Listen,
Hmm.
I think it deserves its spot. It is the very last one on this list, so I think that's fair. It's not the best game ever, but it's very unique. So the next one on this list is Dusk from 2018,
Oh my god.
and
I like this.
it's sort of a homage to earlier FPS games. It's like a fast-paced Doom-esque like labyrinth find the keys situation.
No, it was
Um,
something of the triad, Raise of the Triad, something.
I
There was a
haven't personally played it myself. Looking
no,
at the
there was a
graphics here, it does look quite dated, so I imagine that that's a stylistic choice.
that's it. That's it. It's a direct remake of Rise of the Triad.
Right, is that a game? I've never
Yeah,
heard of it.
it's a yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a shooting game as well. Actually, it's pretty good. Um, it was like a Tokyo. Was it a Tokyo kind of base? It was quite a demonic kind of game, though, if I remember correctly. So I can see where they got the Doom element from it.
It looks pretty
And
messed up in the screenshot,
you start off in hell.
possibly.
Like
I mean,
not
as
okay.
all
I don't think they
games do.
directly call it hell per se.
Yeah.
It's like a it's like a hellish landscape kind of thing, and things aren't obviously quite right, and people are kind of fucked up and stuff. So
Yeah,
you
it
know,
it is it's not a remake of Rise of the Triad, but it is made by the guy who made that, so I'm
oh
assuming that
maybe okay. It was
it's
listen. It
gonna
was
be
something I knew it
derivative.
was something to do with them, but I just can't remember if it was like a direct run-off or remake of it.
Yeah.
But if listen,
Um,
if it is based off of Rise of the Triad, that was actually quite a good game actually. So
yeah. Apparently it's like episodic and split into 10 levels with an additional secret level in each episode if
okay.
you do the right things.
Oh no, I never
So
got that
so
far
if
in
you
the
like
first
that
game.
sort of thing, I think it's pretty powerful, you know. A lot of people do like find the secret cow level and all that other sort of stuff. So I think I can see how
There
it would
is
be
no cow
popular.
level.
The next one, Metro 2033. I don't think that I played this. It says that it's derivative of Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, which people who made Metro
Hmm.
2033 rather worked on. And it's an atmospheric pseudo post-apocalyptic shooter from what I gather. Have you ever played it? I've not played this.
I've played all the other Metros like side scrollers and that one over the camera shoulder shot one, but I don't think I've played this one. But I'm aware of it per se.
Right.
But
So
this
just
this
looking
one on
up
my
to
list isn't.
see,
I wouldn't have put it on the list to be fair.
well, just having a look to see like what people are saying about the game in general, like it does have a solid 9 out of 10 on Steam out of 56,000 reviews. I mean, I think that people really do love this game. There is like an updated version, so I don't know what the difference are between the original and the redo vision. Um, but like some of the reviews are pretty funny. Like it's a game where a bunch of Russians use their Counter-Strike and vodka skills to survive in a post-apocalyptic world. That's from someone named Larry Chan on Steam, and I think it's hilarious. Like, what a review. So maybe it's not taking itself too seriously. I'm not sure. I've not personally played it. The first game on this list that I have personally played is number 22, Borderlands. Now,
Oh
this
yeah,
is Borderlands 2, but in my opinion, you could take both Borderlands and stick it in because they're very much of a muchness.
yeah, 100%.
Excellent, fantastic co-op couch experience,
Do
like
you remember the
no other.
soundtrack to the advert on TV?
Yeah,
Ain't no rest for the wicked.
yeah,
That's what it was actually that got me into the game because I remember hearing the soundtrack thing that was absolutely kicking song,
it
and
was so
then
good.
thinking of what game it was, and then I didn't play number one. I played number two first because of that
Yeah.
song. I was like, oh, that's brilliant marketing right there because it caught me, and I was like, oh, what is it? And looked at it. It looked kind of fun. It was like a Fallout. I thought it was like because the graphics are quite unique, so it was quite cartoony. Oh, what do you call it? Do you remember a movie called Scanner Darkly?
Yeah, it's very much like that. The Keanu Reeves film, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I thought like, oh, brilliant! What a fantastic concept! Like, brilliant. And I thought it was quite smooth, cartoony. And there's one character, the crazy guy who has the thing he does like
Yeah,
that, or whatever it is. I thought his character was quite good. And I remember seeing like there was a YouTube movie of him because he doesn't speak. He just like he's just crazy Pete
just
or something or
babbles,
crazy.
yeah.
So like, there's one where he's trying to explain to this woman like what he's saying, but a voice narrates what he's actually trying to say. But all he hearing is like, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought it was really quite amusing. So I remember playing number two. Didn't do
Oh.
very well at it though. I remember putting it down after a while because I think it wasn't because it was a bad gameplay. I just think I ran out of time to play it, so therefore I couldn't
I think
fully
it is a better
enjoy
of
it.
experience in like co-op than it is as a solo experience because sometimes it does get pretty challenging and you want like another person in order to help you. I did like seeing like the damage and stuff go off. I just found the counters
Yeah,
like
that was
so
quite
cathartic.
satisfying when you had the numbers pop off over the heads
Yeah,
and
it was
stuff like that.
lovely.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
throwback to World of Warcraft apparently.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I always loved that in World of Warcraft as well. I thought, I don't know, there was just a sense of satisfaction seeing the
When you see
numbers
those crit
pop off.
numbers fucking boom at the top,
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, it
enough of
was
them, you're
good.
thinking, ooh. And you see that damage bar drop every time you do it. You know what I mean?
The next one on the list is number 21, Far Cry 2. Now, I would say, for me, maybe this isn't the best one in the list. Um,
Which one's Far
uh,
Cry 2 again? I know it's
Far
after Far. I know it's after Far Cry 1, but like,
Cry.
like and before Far
Far
Cry
Cry
3,
2. If I just look up,
which
um,
is the one with the
it's in the war-torn African state, stricken with malaria and forced to make deals with corrupt warlords. See, Far Cry
no,
3 for me was the best one. That was
yeah, that was that
the
the one with
definition of insanity guy.
that's him. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know if it was this one or that one, but
No.
no, like I never listen. I'm like again not of it, and I can't offer an insight on this one. I'm not a fountain of all Far Cry, so I can't. I can't offer much on this, so I will respectfully pass and
I love it.
move on.
So with this one, I think the reason why they've put Far Cry 2 is because this was such an unusual move in the FPS genre to have like an open world sort of meandering experience, whereas most FPSs were more or less on rails at the time that this came out. So I think maybe that's why they put Far Cry 2, although I have to say Far Cry 3 has a much more memorable character and Far Cry 5 has a much more compelling story. So I
For
don't
an
know,
as
maybe
five,
they're
I
just
didn't even
putting it
know
because
that.
it's the first one that really made waves with an open world.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know it went as high as five.
Yeah, just
I
came
wonder if
out
I wonder if
a
there's
couple
any
years
more
ago.
Far Cries on this list then, because if you're saying that Far Cry 2's here, then Far Cry 3 must be higher up, no?
Hopefully. I haven't looked that far. I'm
Hmm.
trying not to cheat.
Yeah, but maybe they're just picking one from each thingy, like
Possibly, possibly. I
the
mean, I
best
could give
of
it a
that
quick
category of
scan.
that game.
No, I don't think they're doing that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they have picked just one. I don't see anything else further up.
Yeah,
So.
I've got a few expectations of this list then, because there's a few solid games out there that like really need to be on this list. And if I see one of the lesser ones on there, I'm gonna be like, why?
It's funny. So, the number 20 on the list is Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus.
Oh my god,
Uh,
that's an amazing game.
yeah, it
I
is.
played the shit out of that. All the
Is it really?
Wolfensteins, I've played them all, literally all of them, even the add-ons. Like that is an amazing game. Like,
But Wolfenstein: The
is
New
this the
Order is still my
2013
favorite,
one?
but you know.
Is this the 2013, the new one?
No, this is Wolfenstein 2. This is the one that came after the New Order, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah. It was New Order
And
when you
then
met
this one.
DJ Blazkowicz.
So this is 2017. The
Oh,
new
okay.
Colossus came out.
Listen, do you know what? I actually don't mind this one being on the list if it's this is the only one of its category on there. Like, if you
It looks
can't
like
have the
it
New
is, yeah.
Order on there, but you got this one, that I'm okay with that, because the second one to me kicked it up a gear. Because after the first one finished, the way it ended, it
Yeah.
left a lot of unanswered questions, which were absolutely answered and put correctly in number 2.
I do love that the person who wrote this article for Geek said Wolfenstein 2 is the greatest tribute to excess this side of a cocaine party on 80s Wall Street. What a statement. What
Who's
a
who's
he's
who's
like, just when
making
you
these?
think you've seen the most shocking thing this game will do, it finds it a way to up the ante time and time again. And I think that, listen, it was very gory, it was very bloody. Just for me, I like New Order maybe a little bit more, but I believe I've played both of them.
I
I'm
think you
not a
like New
huge
Order because
Wolfenstein
maybe
fan.
it did the foundations.
Yeah, maybe.
Hmm. No, listen. Number 2 is colossal, fantastic. Number 3 though, with his spoiler. Okay, spoiler alert. If
Thank you.
anyone's
Yeah.
doesn't want to hear this, just close your ears for about 5 seconds. In number 3, his 2 twin daughters that don't look like each other, by the way. I don't know
Yeah,
how
they
they're
don't.
twin daughters. They look nothing alike,
Yeah.
right? And he's like still around, but he's gone a little bit like ooh, a little bit. He's on the edge, like oh, he's crazy. Like I didn't find that half as fun as I did number 2.
Yeah, listen, I think I did play that one actually quite recently, and I stopped playing it maybe about 2 hours in
Oh
because
wow.
it wasn't landing the same as me and like
Hmm.
same as the last ones, and I didn't really enjoy the slightly more childish take from like the perspectives of much more youthful children. Like they're like, oh yeah, this would make dad proud and stuff. I just really can't empathize with
Yeah.
that at this point in my life, but
I mean,
I mean, it was charming.
if I had like daddy issues, I probably would like it. Like, but I don't. Like, oh gee whiz, dad, I'm gonna go and kill some Nazis.
Some
Like
Nazis.
Nazis.
Fair enough. Listen, Wolfenstein's a great series. I think for me, I'm just generally approaching this list as, what series they're putting it on there because I think you could really dispute between New Order and New Colossus. They're like both very good
Do you
entries into
know
the genre.
why aren't they putting like the originals on here?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't
You
tell
know what I
you.
mean? Like, because
There are some very fairly old games on here, so I think
but
maybe
then
they just
that'll be
like
a
that
list
one
for
more.
another day, won't it? That'd be like a list of original first-person shooters that started
Yeah,
you know, a genre, so to speak.
the genre.
A
Um,
genre.
Number 19 is, now I've not played this at all. Team Fortress 2. Have you played this?
Yeah, fucking right, I did. Yeah, it was on the orange box. You got it with Half Life. It came as like a semi demo at first, but it was just mainly capture the flag stuff. But
Right.
not capture the flag, or was it capture the base? Oh, whichever one it was. Oof. But amazing game, really funny. And then they started slowly introducing more characters. So, like when you first got it, you only had about 4 or 5 characters, and then later on they started to introduce like the medic and the pyro and people like that. But I remember the adverts that used to come on TV when I was sat there with my mum, and it would be meet the meet the soldier or meet the runner or something, and it was just like little skits, and I found them hilarious. But obviously, it was. as a game though, it was very good. It was very good, very addictive. Like you spend hours just trying to play and team up with people. Again, it was one of those games at the time where oh no, you could like so when you had Quake Arena, right? You had an opportunity to have like your friends play some of the characters on it, but then the others were played by NPCs.
Right.
Where Team Fortress had the opportunity to do where it was all players without the NPCs.
Right. Total multiplayer. Yeah.
So like yeah, so it was based off the multiplayer platform. That you had to had four on one side and four on the other side, otherwise you wouldn't get a match. And I thought that was quite a bold statement to do without taking the computer element out of it as well. You know, so you've just designed a game which has to only function with four and four people playing.
Wow.
Do you know? I thought that was quite a bold thing to do. I think it worked. To be fair, because look what happens now. You get like Apex Legends and Fortnite.
Fortnite and whatnot.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like they get what's the other one where
I
there's
mean,
like
Left 4 Dead would have been
yeah
the direct successor for the most part because it was restricted 4-4.
yeah. So like I
All
think it
right.
was quite a bold thing to do during that time.
Listen, I haven't played it, but I do remember the adverts. I think
The
because
adverts were
the
hilarious.
characters look
Everyone was a
familiar.
Scottish black guy with one eye.
Love it. Number 18 on this list. Now, neither of us have played this, so I'm just going to share the review from Den of Geek and why they put it on this list. Now, this is SWAT 4, and you haven't played that either, right?
No, I haven't. No,
So,
it must have missed me by.
So Geek says, what separates SWAT 4 from so many incredible tactical FPS games that came before and after? If I had to attribute this game's brilliance to any one thing, I would say level design. SWAT 4 uses somewhat unusual premise compared to other tactical FPS games as the basis for some truly creative missions that somehow make seemingly common environments more compelling than even some of the most elaborate fantasy worlds. From infiltrating a cult leader's camp to descending into the basement of a serial killer's home, SWAT 4 constantly finds new ways to use its incredible tactical gameplay to surprise you. That actually sounds hella fun.
Hell yeah, it does.
Hell yeah. I
Didn't
think
it's
I've
like a
seen
first strike
PewDiePie
kind of
playing this
situation.
actually. I think, if I remember correctly, it was popular about maybe 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Was it?
Yeah. I recognize the screenshots. And I think I remember seeing people like teabagging people on YouTube in this game. The models look familiar, as they do.
Teabagging. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure I don't know what the original game did to teabagging, right? But I'm almost certain it was Halo.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was Halo Combat Evolved that did teabagging,
yeah, yeah.
and
But SWAT
then
came
Alien vs
after,
Predator
and now
2 started
everyone
doing
does
it.
it
Yeah, then everyone started doing it.
because it's hilarious.
Outrage.
So SWAT 4, I don't have much to say. If you played that game, please comment down below. Let us know what it's like, or link us to some Twitch streams that are interesting with it. I'm happy to learn more, but I've just never played it myself. Number 17 is the next one. This is The Operative. No One Lives Forever. I mean, this is 100% a James Bond esque situation. Have you ever played this?
Is this GoldenEye?
No.
Which one's this one?
It's called The Operative. No One Lives Forever.
Sound? Is it anything to do with James Bond?
It says that it has a permanent residence in licensing hell, so probably not, but it's probably so close that they almost got in trouble or have gotten in trouble.
When you said the title, I have to admit, like, sorry, I phased out the first part of what you said. I only caught the last bit of the title, and I thought that sounds like a James Bond movie. Like, is that the movie?
Yeah,
Is
it
that the
really
game?
does, but no, it's not. It doesn't seem to actually be a licensed James Bond situation. It features a woman in a lovely white and orange like shell suit, like jumpsuit, with a pistol, and it has stealth game elements. It's an FPS, and it was regionally published by Fox Interactive for Windows, but then it was ported over to PS2 and Mac in 2002. So it's a pretty old game. It looks very much like Grand Theft Auto had a baby with GoldenEye, and I've never played it, so I can't speak to how good it is, but
Sorry,
it's
it
fairly high on
sounds
the
awful.
list.
It's very
So
high on the list.
yeah, I mean it's number 17. And think about it. This was 2000. Like those graphics are not bad for 2000. We're thinking like what GTA
What
3
game were you
days,
playing
not
in
even.
what game? I hate to say this, right? But what game were you playing 22 years ago?
Not this.
I can tell you right now, it wasn't this. I don't even know this game.
I
22 years
can
ago?
have a
Jesus.
look. Let's see. Deus Ex for sure, The
Oh,
Sims,
yeah,
Diablo
yeah, I
2,
remember that.
Counter Strike. These
I
are all the
remember
games
that.
that came out in 2000. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, you were definitely playing
Awesome
that.
game.
Tony
Yeah, I
Hawk's
was
Pro
all over that.
Skater 2, I was playing that. Perfect Dark, I was playing that. Baldur's Gate 2 was playing that. Like,
Yeah. Can you understand why I'm a bit confused, right? Because like, how is this on the list when you've just rattled off at least 3 or 4 good games of that same genre? Maybe I'm being ignorant. I just don't know this game.
they might be higher on the list. Remember, this is
Mm.
just FPSs. So if it's third person, it's not going to be on the list. And that's a really important clarification to make
Oh, yeah.
because it's not all shooters, it's just first person.
Okay, let's go for it.
All right, love it. Which means takes us to number 16, which of course is GoldenEye 007. So right after a spy one, we have arguably the better spy one, which is GoldenEye. And so I'm
Yep.
glad that it is in front, although it's not as far ahead as I think it should be because this game changed people's lives. Like the loading screen was so exciting. When you died, it was super exciting. Like
Was
this
this the
game was
one
great.
on the Was it on the N64?
Um,
Where
well, it was on the PC, but I am trying to remember what
it had a
platform.
split four screen on the same screen.
Yeah, in Nintendo 64. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and then if you picked, is it odd job? Or you picked one of the characters, you couldn't shoot him because your gun couldn't go down, and you just end up shooting above his head.
Amazing.
There's one of the characters here that if you, it's not a cheat. It was just cheap. If you played as the odd job or oddball or whatever his name was, because the way every NPC held every player held their gun, they would
Mm,
shoot above him and he could shoot at you. So then it was like kind of cheating. And
okay.
was it there not a gun there as well? Like the golden gun was completely overpowered.
I feel like I remember something about a golden gun, but I could be conflating a few games together. I've watched this played. I never had a Nintendo 64 or a Wii, but I have seen this played thousands of times and distinctly remember the music and all the stuff that went with it. So I can see why people would have some nostalgia around this game. And I'm glad that it's higher than the one that knocked it off, like, many years later.
Well, I never even heard of the other one, Detective, whatever it was.
Listen, it looks all right though. For 2000, it looks all right.
Mm.
Number 15, next on the list, Battlefield Bad Company 2. So I have to say, I do remember this. If I'm remembering correctly, the adverts on television, there was like a smiley face with like a gunshot through its eye, perhaps, or through the middle of its head with like a trickle of blood coming down. That was like the advert for Bad Company 2. Um,
Was this in
and
America?
no, no, no. I think it might even be on the box art now that I think about it. Um, Let me just have a look. Maybe I just hallucinated that, which is also possible because I can't find it anywhere. Let me see if there are any
It
images.
sounds
Have you
like
ever played this
Watchmen, what
game
you just
anyway?
described.
Ah, no, bad coming. Okay, so there's a grenade. I'm confusing the Watchman with
Watchmen, yeah, which
yeah.
is
So
the
this has
smiley
a
face.
grenade with a smiley face pen on it. So when you pull the
Right.
pin, it's got a smiley face on it. That I didn't hallucinate it. I was just sort of in my mind, Watchmen and it have sort of converged into a single memory. Um, this is an EA game. Came out in 2010. Um, like it was pretty popular at the time. I didn't play it, but people are still playing it. 10, 12 years on. Um, have you played this one at all?
No, mate. Skip past it. I skipped this one. I wasn't a fan of any of the battlefields or anything like that. I don't know why, but they just didn't resonate with me in the slightest. I like because when I'm a bit biased and unpopular opinions. I like my shooters to be like completely unrealistic. Like they got to be set in different alien lands. The guns
Yeah.
have to be, unique and things like that. When you got things like Battlefield and Call of Duty, it's more like hyper realism or realism to how they should
Yeah.
be. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that because obviously there's people that play that, but for me, I like the fantasy.
Yeah.
I like the
Well, I
fantasy,
think what was so amazing about Battlefield, if I remember correctly, is that the environments were destructible. So, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you shot through things or blew
It
things
stayed.
up,
It stayed like that. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's quite interesting. But I'm sure actually I probably have played it, but all these sort of games sort of blend together for me. And aside
Mm.
from the most recent version of Call of Duty that I played, I probably couldn't tell you the difference between one or another. Unfortunately, it's just not really something I get very excited about either. But it is a good game, so I think it's fine on the list. But for me, number 14 is where it's at. Halo 3, amazing game.
Yeah.
However, I'm just going to say, for me, Halo 2 was better. Do you know,
What
like the
combat
ranking?
evolved?
So Halo 1 is the first one. That's Halo Combat Evolved. Then Halo 2 is the second one. Then Halo 3 is the third one. For me, Halo 2 was the best one. It was the one where I was like, oh, wow, they've made this so much better. Whereas Halo 3, I was like, oh, okay, fun. Do you know, like it didn't have the same. And ever since I've played
Was
Halo,
number three
it's
where you could
never.
play as the Arbiter?
So Halo 3 had like the Forge mode and stuff. I don't remember exactly the storyline. I think Halo 2 is where you got to be the Arbiter, if I remember correctly, and
Do you know
control
what? I
him.
think you're right, and if I vaguely remember, I also remember like people being up in arms about something, but I can't remember what
They
they were
always get
upset
up in
about.
arch. But Halo 3, you had the Forge mode, so you could create your own environments and things like that. And I think Halo 3 was the first one where they had the confetti mode, where like the little grunts would go, yay, when you exploded them,
Oh, that's
if I
that's.
remember correctly.
I hate that kind of mode.
But Halo 2, I distinctly remember the ranking system for ranked PvP was incredible. It was so accurate, and every time you won, it felt like such an achievement. I never felt that again from Halo.
I never
You
got
know, so
into
I
the.
think that's why it's really stuck with me. And to be honest, I haven't even finished Halo 5 and I don't care because it seemed quite boring. Like
You
I
know,
wasn't getting into the story at all and I've deleted it off the hard drive now because it's like 50 gigs and I needed space for something else. So, and I love Halo. I did, but I think once Bungie lost hold of Halo, the people that, 434 Industries or whatever their name is, they just couldn't ever get the magic back and the things that they were putting in place just weren't as fun as the stuff I remember from Halo 2. But listen, if people love Halo 3 and that's what they remember, maybe I'm conflating some two things. It's possible for me that time in my life was sort of, many years ago and merge a little bit together. So I would say either of those are fine for me, but um if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the only duplicates on the list. So we will see Halo again later on.
right. So from what I took away from Halo wasn't the multiplayer. It was actually the campaign. I liked the campaign. I thought the campaign was really good and played it through. I thought it flushed out a lot of everything, and it introduced a few new threats as well as from the obviously you had the flood, which were the
Oh,
major ones and the last
the
ones.
flood messed me up, man.
Yeah, and then I think this one evolved into the creators or the makers or something. There was another enemy even
Yeah,
more powerful than the flood before, but they were separate entities. You know what I mean? I just thought, oh, brilliant! It's opened up another chapter, and that's what kept it fresh for me. But the actual multiplayer, I just couldn't get involved with it because it wasn't for me. Like it really wasn't for me.
I
Like
mean, we were doing big LAN parties and like bringing TVs over to other people's houses and shit. Do you know, like, because I was like 17, 18 around this time, and like this was like what we were doing with our
it could be a
evenings.
generational thing because obviously I'm a little bit older than you. So like when we started doing LAN parties for us, it was Doom and it was
Of course it
Quake.
was, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It was Doom. It was Quake.
Yeah,
It was Quake 2. Do you know what I mean? It was those were like, oh, very rarely it was Quake Arena and things like this. Like actually, that was a bit behind for us. And Alien versus Predator 2, they were
yeah.
our like parties kind of thing. So maybe that's a reason, because I think that was the new generation of people playing first person shooters coming into play then, and
I just
obviously
think it was so fun because like we'd play like 2v2, right? And there'd be two of us on one TV in the living room and then two of us on one TV in my high school boyfriend's room. And at the time Jesse was really good at no scoping people from across a map. So he'd get the sniper rifle and it was over. He would just snipe his friend Jeff from like across the map. You just hear go, "Ow!" in the other room. It was great. And he'd be like, "Jesse's got the sniper, we gotta get him." It was great. It was good memories, but I think maybe it's a mix of nostalgia and just Halo 1 and 2 sort of merging
yeah,
together for me into like a better entity than Halo 3 ever could have been.
it's listen. I think of anyone on this list as well. Like same with the other ones, that with the games we don't know about. It's whatever the connection made with you. Doesn't matter what we actually think or the list actually says. Like some of these list items, like they may be number one to some people, and that's
Mm,
that's good enough for them. This is only
yeah.
an opinionated list from Geek of whatever. What is it?
Den of Geek.
Den of Geeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whereas we're the Temple of Geek, a higher order, I would argue.
I think we're the Chinese knockoff, if you ask me, mate.
No. So, moving on. So, number 13 is Titanfall 2. Now, I know you haven't played this game, but this is a lovely game. It's
Oh,
about the
take it away.
relationship
I'm not
between a
interested
boy
in this one.
and his mech. Yeah. And this robot mech has the most winningest personality. You just start to love him to death. Like he's selfless. The operator tries to get him killed all the time, but he's there to look out for you and keep you safe and tell you when enemies are coming, and like the story is quite wholesome and adorable despite it being quite a gritty realistic first person shooter where you pilot a gigantic mech around and shoot shit. It's absolutely crazy how good the narrative was of that game, and I totally agree with the reviewer here. Titanfall 2 is a FPS that everyone slept on. If Titanfall 1 was a launch title for the Xbox One, so almost everyone got that one free, and like they weren't they I don't think anybody was that excited about it because Titanfall 1 maybe wasn't as evolved. It was more of a showcase of the technology of the Xbox One than it was a game in its own right. Whereas Titanfall 2, they made like a whole story and they fully realized the characters, and it was absolutely lovely. Like I can't go on enough about how good this game is. It's definitely worth playing if you can get a copy of it. It's very cute.
Do you think it should have been higher on the list?
I think 13 is like, in fact, maybe 13's a little bit too high. Like, let's
Oh,
be honest, like Halo and GoldenEye and Far Cry. I mean, 2, but for me, Far Cry 3, they would all be higher than this game. However, this game definitely should be on the list.
okay.
Maybe
Okay.
a little bit
Well,
lower, but I'm glad it's here, so I'm trying to
yeah,
read too much
yeah.
into it.
Listen,
Um,
opinion's an opinion, man.
Number 12, and some people would argue that this isn't really a first person shooter because there are other elements in it, but it is the original Bioshock, the Would You Kindly, one of my favorite games of all
How is that
time.
not? Who would argue that's not a shooter?
Because you can do things that aren't necessarily shooting, like releasing bees and like,
Oh, yes. Okay. Right. Okay. No. Look. Okay. I get what they're trying to say, but I played this on keyboard and mouse.
so you
Right,
were shooting.
so the mechanics and the controls to me were like a shooter's mechanics and controls. You still
Right.
had the cursor in the middle. You still had to aim. You still had to, do stuff. So for me, I would class this as a shooter, easy end of the day. And it was only a small percentage of the game. Like you didn't have to go the magical hand route.
Hmm.
Do you know? Because that's like saying like any weapon that you picked up that wasn't a gun and used in a shooting game wasn't classed as the whole game as a shooter. No,
Yeah. I
because
mean,
now you like
for
in
me,
Halo, you've got a bloody energy sword, so therefore,
yeah.
like, well, that isn't part of the game then.
Yeah. Listen, I think like that's a fair statement. I think because the magic element, like you could play the entire game with melee and just the magic or just the magic alone. Maybe that's why, or because it had RPG elements, like where you made a choice about the little sisters and things like that, that perhaps it could be
You
more
mean
of
it
an
had too much of a hand?
adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, listen, it was a fantastic game though. Like again, visually for its time was like amazing. Like Rapture underwater. I didn't even realize I was underwater originally. I thought I was in some sort of bloody space thing going on. Like, and the beginning opening scene was fantastic. Like you're surviving a ship, what you think is a plane wreck, and it's not. Like you see a plane tail there, but it's not. It's like you've actually come from the underground. Like you've
Yeah.
actually come from the city, and then you
Yeah.
go to the
Wild.
lighthouse. You always, do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, what a mind fuck! Ah, like, and it was really good. And then you didn't realize you'd been manipulated until the last few segments. The
Mm.
entire game, you've been manipulated.
Yeah. It was so
Fantastic.
that part was so good. That still gets me. Like I still get shivers. It was
Would you
wild.
kindly?
Would you kindly? I sometimes say it to see if people will notice, you know?
No
I
one's
just
gonna
want to
know
know.
unless they're a geek.
So the last one for today's episode, and we'll pick up this list next week, starting with number 10. But this is number 11, Quake 3 Arena. Now I know you have some things to say about Quake 3. You've got to.
This game, I've played this for years. So the only two characters I ever played, not that there was anything wrong with the other characters, they all played the same, but it's not like their skins. Was the Doom guy skin? I thought he was an amazing character, and Sarge. The only two ones I bothered playing, and I remember the cinematic for it. The cinematic was amazing. It opens up with Sarge like trying to take on a whole like battalion of people that you don't really identify, but you don't see them either. And the music as well, the very techno like I can't even do it. It was just so like upbeat and like absolute badass. And then they brought Ranger in. Then they brought oh Razor and all these other guys in and everything else. And like the platforming from jumping and rocket jumping, because like rocket jumping would only been discovered in Quake 1 or 2, whichever one was. And then they really did the mechanics really proud on number 3. And then they had bouncing pads and all sorts. And if you were really skilled, like my brother was, he could like time the rocket to intercept you during your jumps. And he was a
Messed up.
nightmare for it. And the railgun was a phenomenal weapon. That was the first time I ever really encountered it properly. And you needed some skill with that. And Gibbs, that's what you when you get popped, you get called like Gibbs, and it was really amazing game. They did an add-on for it as well. What was the add-on called? It was Black versus Blue or something, or Black and Blue, or and you had 3 extra maps or a couple of extra maps, and you had lots more. Was it Quake the Team Arena? I think it was, or Team something. Team Arena. Oh well, anyway, who cares? But they had these rock hard NPCs. They used to be called Reaper bots. Right. The reason why they were called Reaper bots is because someone did a program to fight uh, like an NPC like bot, but they made it incredibly accurate, incredibly hard,
Oh
quite
wow.
robust and everything, you know. And then when they did Team Arena, they used the Reaper bots as their base platform to make the NPC more difficult to fight, so it wasn't
Oh
like very
wow.
easy. It was actually
Right.
it was bloody absolutely ingenious. What an amazing game!
Wow.
Yeah, I think they've done a wait. Have they done another one? I'm doing another one. They've
I
done
I
something.
think they did one since then.
I think they have. You know,
Because I swear I've seen this. This is terrible. I swear I've seen this logo recently
what arena?
for Quake just in general. Let me just have a look and
I
see
think they're
what the
doing
most
another one,
recent
like a super recent one.
one. Yeah, let's just have a quick gander and see when the most recent one was made.
I know people are still playing it now. They still play Quake the Arena.
That actually that if you type in newest Quake, I think you'll find information about earthquakes. That's not what I wanted. Quake 2 from 2019
Hmm.
and Quake Champions 2017. Let's have a look at Quake 2019.
Quake Champion sounds familiar.
It is Quake 2 is a ray traced reimagining of the original classic. So they've re-released. That's why I've seen it recently. They've re-released Quake 2 in more high def. Quake Champions is a arena shooter, and it's on the PC, free to play actually. So you could give it another go if you wanted to.
Oh wow.
But that is the end of this part of the list, and we're just coming up to an hour. So, any final thoughts on this 25 to 11 segment of FPS shooters? Any fairly happy with where we've gotten to? Big
Yeah.
expectations in the
Well,
top 10?
listen, there's a few thoughts there, but obviously I don't know. I'm just blind guessing what's ahead, right? So I would expect to see things like Doom on there somewhere, the original Wolfenstein's maybe, Alien versus Predator 2, not necessarily 1 because number 2 was more evolved from number 1, and like oh bloody hell, loads. Oh, what's that? The Crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because like on Crisis 1, 2, and 3, like most people would balance their PCs on that to think if they've got a good graphics card because the detail in that was like, could it run Crisis? Could it run this? And Fear.
Right.
And oh, there's loads of other games. Rage. Like I can't even list them all. Like where are them?
Well, I have some concerns for next week's episode as I've just peeked at the list ahead, but
Oh,
we'll leave it there.
that is
We will
horrendous.
we will pick up next week with the top 10 and then probably some of Tom's honorable mentions because I don't think he's going to be satisfied with this. But for today,
If this next part of the list is some old bullshit where it's like a game from the 1980s or 1990s, the very first, I don't care. Give me that good stuff. I don't need this Billy bullshit stuff. Like, where's the meat? You're just giving me the sauce.
well,
Give me the meat. I'm a carnivore. You know what I mean? Oh, dickheads. They won't even,
hopefully we'll find the beef next episode. Yeah.
we best do. And where's my GoFundMe page? What the hell with my fridge? I want my fridge sorted. Like, Temple of Geek, get on it.
Nope, no GoFundMe pages. Sorry.
This
That
is
wraps up this episode of Retro Rebel Gamecast, sponsored by Temple of Geek. I do want to thank Tom for this week's discussion. All the notes from this episode will be posted to our site, templeofgeek.com, and we will follow up next week to finish this list, so please tune in next week. If you want to add to the discussion on what we talked about so far, or reach out with questions, sound off in the comments or email us at retrorebel@templeofgeek.com. And if you like what you hear, head over to wherever you download your podcast and subscribe so you get each episode as it's released, especially next week's, and rate us because that really helps our show. Until the next time, we'll see you later.